Great to have you with us today on this second ever Friday show. This week's interview, this is an interesting one. Lewis, we've had many interviews where people talk about how important it is to buy gold and silver. And then we've had many interviews where people talk about prophecy and the end times and the apocalypse and the rapture. But we've had very few interviews. In fact, I would say not only have we not had any number, not only have we not have a significant number, we've only had one interview, and it's this one where we had someone who was an expert in both precious metals and prophecy. And that was this woman, Trimble, who had all sorts of interesting ideas about how the end times were directly connected to buying gold and silver, by the way, from the company that she's involved with. This was definitely one of the most bizarre interviews that was like an understated, completely outrageous interview.
Yeah, normally religion is a business within it, unto itself. But here you have someone combining two businesses, really. But I guess if you're someone who is approaching this from a certain business side and from a religious side, you can claim to separate the two.
Yeah, and we received so many emails after this interview aired. We'll talk about those in a second. Take a look at the interview. Trimble is CEO of Southlake Gold and Silver. She also writes the blog unreportedworldnews.com. Anne, really a pleasure to speak with you today.
Well, thanks. Nice to be here.
You've been a follower of Bible prophecy for some time, and you have made the case that there is actually much to be determined about the economy and the future of the economy when looking at the prophetic puzzle. Can you explain that a little bit to my audience?
Sure. Scripture tells us very clearly that in the last days, a world ruler is going to arise. And as we've pieced it together, we can tell from the book of Daniel that, the last empire that was going to come about has reemerged with their 10 toes being the European, Union. And the economic piece, Ecclesiastes 10:19, tells us that money answereth all things.
And do you see that as a clear indication that people should be investing in gold and silver? I mean, link the two together, which I know you do sometimes.
I really do. The latest book I've written is God's Answers to Our Economic Crisis, and it's God's view of money versus man's view of money. Gold and silver are stores of real value. And as we see the euro and as we see the dollar, declining tremendously in value, God would desire that people own something of real substance, which is what gold and silver are. That's why he created them in Genesis 2:12.
So to be clear, and there's just so much here, and so we need to, excuse me if I need to take it a piece at a time. Gold and silver, you're saying, have an inherent value which was created by God, and that there would be no other reason for gold and silver to exist other than God wanting people to own them.
Basically, yes. That's why he created them.
Okay.
Was for bartering purposes.
And, my concern with that is that gold in and of itself really only possesses the value based on mankind's desire to possess it. I don't know that God really has anything to do with it. I mean, if mankind were not interested in gold, it would really have no value at all. If people decided, rice and beans are really incredibly valuable, then those would be more valuable and gold wouldn't be. So this idea that there's this inherent value to gold is kind of one of the top 10 known misconceptions about gold, isn't it?
Well, I think the whole perspective has to be couched in the fact that, practically speaking, in our world, gold has value. I mean, that's why people want gold jewelry and they want, silver, real silver, whether it's candelabra or anything.
Now, did God create the markets, or did God just create gold and its value and people created the markets?
Well, obviously, people created the markets. I'm trying to equate the fact that gold and silver in and of themselves have value.
Now, is it true, Anne, that you actually, because of your Bible study and knowledge, you were able to warn your clients before the 2008 crash? And what did you how did you know to warn them, first of all? And did you recommend they buy more gold?
I did. I saw it coming because my background is journalism and prophecy, and
right.
So I knew the political piece, and I've been watching the spiritual piece. There's three pieces that are developing simultaneously. So
Can you go into a little bit, my concern with gold, I have a lot of concerns with gold, to be honest. And one of the concerns is that so many, and when I say so many, I would say 9 out of 10 would be an understatement, of the gold vendors are selling people, number one, they are recommending these kind of collectible and rare coins. And when they're, using a doomsday scenario similar to yours, where the world is ending type of thing, you're really only going to get the melt value for gold. So spending lots of extra money on these rare coins, to me, is like just burning dollars. I might as well just throw them out the window. Maybe at least somebody would catch a few of them and be able to get some food to eat, if you know what I mean. So that's one concern with gold. Do you recommend these rare coins? I mean, what does Southlake Gold and Silver offer?
Well, that's a great question, and I'd like to address just what you're bringing up and take it one step further.
Yeah.
The company I originally started doing business with, now I have a scam watch division of my company, because the company was taking people's money and not delivering their metals for sometimes years.
Okay, and so I guess my question that I'm going back to is, do you agree that it's a terrible idea if you're talking about this doomsday scenario where the financial markets fall apart and paper currency is valueless? You're throwing money away by buying anything other than just basic bullion.
Well, let's look at another aspect, though, and that is the first depression. They confiscated bullion, but they didn't confiscate part collectibles, which are numismatic, $20 libs, things like that. The pre-1933 part collectibles. I mean, I'm not into rare coins. There's a lot of misinformation in the gold world based on all the ads out there on television.
I think a good question also to ask is, if the world is ending, if we are close to the end, why do you need gold and silver anyway?
Well, the reason people need to own gold and silver, particularly, I mean, we're not there yet, but it's coming soon.
How soon also, by the way?
Well, there's signs we're watching for. And, there's going to be a world leader emerging, and he's going to require people to get a mark in order to buy and sell.
So you're sure it will be a man?
The Bible calls it the beast. That's
okay.
The literal word. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm not one of those like Anna was in the temple in the book of Acts. She knew her Messiah was coming.
Right. So how, I mean, we've had a lot of these predictions made. We had, Harold Camping, how many times has he predicted the end of the world at this point? Shirley Phelps Roper, in the context of telling me that I'm an evil Jew, predicted the end of the world a number of different times. And every time they're wrong, and then after they're wrong, they never come back on the show when I want to say, hey, what happened with that date? I mean, give us a sense. Are we talking, could this be a week? Do we have a couple of years? Are we talking 30 years before the end of time here?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a great question. And, being Jewish, I have a great friend. He's a Sumerian Jew, and he has an entire presentation using the Old Testament as to why Israel's been reborn and why the Messiah is coming.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are being taken advantage of, not necessarily by your company, but by companies that claim to do a similar thing, help people hedge against the possible fluctuations of paper currency. And I think a lot of people, the price isn't going to go up forever. So the idea that this is a sure bet, we've heard about sure bets before. So I worry about the people being taken advantage of and putting more than 10 or 15% of their money into gold and silver. That's my real concern, Ann.
Mm-hmm. Well, and, I work closely with, some very prominent economists who are calling it the demographic winter, and their projections, including Harry Dent, are that, by the spring of 2013, the market could go down to 3,000.
All right. Well, we'll see. I think in the ultimate doomsday scenario, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference if that ever does come to pass. We've been speaking with Ann Trimble, CEO of Southlake Gold and Silver. Unreportedworldnews.com is the website. Thanks for joining us today, Ann.
Thanks a lot. It's nice to be here.
Okay, so after this aired, normally when we have like the crazy guests on, right? The interviews that come in are much more clear about what it is that people have been watching or listening to. With this, it was just so bizarre that people didn't even know how to react. The emails that we got, Lewis, were indicating that people were really confused by the interview and they knew something was wrong with the entire thing, but it was kind of like amorphous. They couldn't exactly figure out what it was that was so strange.
Yeah, I mean, they're right that it's a strange interview. I don't really know what else to say about it. It was just it was a long time ago. Seems like forever, and it was just kind of bizarre.
All right, so there it is, the classic interview with Anne Trimble, the end times prophecy combined with, of course, the incredibly conservative financial strategy of buying gold and silver, all wrapped into one package.